Thank you for tuning in to UJUAJI. The views expressed on this podcast are solely those of the individuals and do not represent any group or entity. Special thanks to our production team and to Folklore for their technical support. UJUAJI is proudly supported by One Beat.
Important. It's very important to say in Africa we were already doing slavery. When Shaka Zulu conquers these guys.
Capitalism is very greed based.
Yes.
So it's about hapa kuna opportunity. Why am I not making the most out of this?
Missionaries are inspired by their feelings. Nini, our God is so awesome. Everyone should know about this God. When they come here, we're like, us guys are good, bro. We have God. We are it. I mean, your God's cool too, but bye, bro. So the missionary is like, But you're right. When the missionary goes back, they report on these things.
When you look at specifically Baba Jaden and how he was very specific in being able to literally silence the voice of true leaders, meaning that there were people who were genuinely out looking out for the people. What he did was that he killed leaders and maintained the greediest.
Are we saying that the guy who came here, who we've been calling colonialist, was actually a capitalist?
Yes.
100.
What? In fact.
So the guy wasn't coming here to look for let me go and be the king of this place. The guy just needed a bunch of resources and labor to build products and make profit.
And to wage war and to make money. Like, wars cost money. Do you get what I'm saying? That's the whole point. The whole point was, I need to make money.
I need to make money. And if I go to this place, okay? So first, you know, they'd been coming to they'd been here. The Europeans have been trading with the Africans for donkey years, okay? Even pre-feudalism, they were already coming on the coast. They were already trading. They're like, okay. Hey, these guys have resources, bro. We come, we pick gold. Unenda to Upper Gold Coast. Literally, it's called the Gold Coast. All there is gold. You just go to the Gold Coast. You just pick up some gold. You agree. And for many years, a lot of it was tunaheshimiana. Sindio tuko na gold. Wame kuja kubuy gold. Ni aje. Sindio?
What you have, we talk, we finish, we
Voila.
continue.
Sindio? Then, now, at this point where they're like, bro, who's going to work in America? If guys go and work in America, which is our colony, right? If guys are in America grinding over there for cotton, because cotton is what drove slavery. If we have people working in the cotton fields, it means now we have more product for our factories. So now we have more fabric that we can sell as garments across the world. So then the first ones, it's like, hey, there's some homies over here who, they're not mad at the idea of selling slaves to you. It is also important, it's very important to say, in Africa, we were already doing slavery. When Shaka Zulu conquers these guys,
you come and work for me.
You become slaves. You become his slaves. Some of you are just like absorbed. Yeah, but it's true. Slavery is truly about labor. But it was also about like other things that are not just labor. It's also like conquest, expansion of territory. So now you can still live here, but now you're called, you're now under the Zulus. You're no longer your independent people. So slavery already existed. So by the time this guy is being like, yo, bro, these slaves of yours, Niajes, you hook me up. There are some African guys, leaders who are like, yeah, bro, I think it's a very important thing. It wasn't new. Sim colonia military history of slavery. That is also inherent to human nature. Domination of each other.
Owning people, owning the labor force.
Yes, but often it was as a result of, so we conquered. Now you guys are no longer a state of your own. You are now absorbed as us, and the army has to be gotten in as slaves. Then they're not given, like, so then they start taking. They take slaves, then they're like,
Slaves are major.
Sasa tuko na 200. So even the guys who are buying the slaves, it's like it is labor that they are buying. It's not slavery. It is labor. But because it is slavery, what slavery means is I don't have to pay you, step one. I don't even have to give you a house to stay, a place to shower, all those things. I don't owe you none of those things. You wake up in the morning, you work for this number of hours. So now the slaves were the people working in the industry in England, this was the equivalent. Yes. But now you guys, your industry is the shamba. You go there when I tell you, you finish when I tell you. I'm irritated that I have to feed you, but shit, I am just going to feed you so that tomorrow you can be alive for you to do some more. Yeah, because if you die, it's going to be expensive. Now I have to buy new slaves. Yeah. What if there's no So then this slaving thing starts to happen. Then at some point they're like, bro, these people start complaining, morals. They're like, okay. So now at the point at which people began thinking about morals, that's when they schemed the new plan, which is instead of taking them from their home, no, bro, what if we just go to that home? Oh, yeah. We're taking you to come and farm for us. What if we could just do that farming where you are? Why are we taking you? We are incurring the expense of transportation. And now we are dealing with all this flack because there's people who are like, this is immoral, this is illegal, this is not humane. So the capitalist is like, bro, okay, sawa. If we say slave trade is over, how do we replace the two resources, the natural resource of the human being, and how do we also, their labor, how do we then also find because now if we no longer own the farms, there's so many things that happened. America became a country. They're like, hey, America is a country now of its own. You mean you guys are no longer your colony? So they lost this place where they were just getting the cotton for free. Now we have to pay you to get the cotton. They're like, we need a new plan. Enter the chariot. Now let us come to Africa. Welcome Pojiroso. Chini ya mnazi. Tumekupata. Itakuaje?
All right. So, and this is deep because I've seen a lot of stories about the first traders who came in and their experiences. And there was good guys and there was not so good guys. Yeah. And there was there was some resistance to a foreign person, but there was no resistance to the concept of trade. That if I was just passing by, or if I needed to collect this, or I'm selling this, I'm on my way to Mountain X, hiyo tunaelewa, this happens normally. Then now it progresses to the point where these guys who are here start trying to cut deals which the locals don't agree with. All right? And I think this is where now the conflict. So there's the one thing, because I think when they came here, despite all the other stuff that was happening, the guys here were they had already figured out their own structure in terms of, we are the leaders here, we trade with so-and-so, this is how our route works, these are our seasons. A guy comes and I want to do business with you, that means X and I'll pay you this. I've read a bunch of stories about African leaders in different places not valuing their chums. This is what I was asking. So the African leader is like, it's dope, but I don't need the coins for any other trade I do. So me, I don't need. And the guys, yeah, so it's like, you guys come work for me, help me do this, I'll pay you these coins. And these guys don't care. Hey, you guys, man, you guys are wearing skins. Let me sell you guys some of these cotton clothes that we make. As we are sour. Then there's the one guy, and I think as you guys have been talking, one of the things I've noted is that capitalism is very greed-based. Yes. So it's about, hapa kuna opportunity, why am I not making the most out of this, right? Most. So these guys go
also
and they start to find collaborators. It was almost like, because then it's like, there's a guy who's willing to trade with us, but the chief or some leader isn't agreeing. And I think this is where now the concept we talk about of colonialism started to show face, where the capitalist is writing letters to someone to be like, bro, I'm facing some resistance over here with getting the nini. Maybe send me some troops. Maybe send me some guns. I can convince the guys. It'll take a bit more, but also here, once they see one guy being shot, tuko sawa. Exactly. And so the capitalist kind of just used whatever means necessary to acquire, because at this point, if we've lost America, we've lost a very valuable resource in our economy. So we need resources, which we can't get anymore in England. Here, there's multiple. There's gold on this side. There's farms on this side. There's cattle on... Can
you imagine how a capitalist is just like,
he's just
what?
Looking, he's like, I'm still going, and this
all the missionaries have come with gold. They're like, bruh, where'd you get this?
Yeah. And I think it's very important to say
where did you get this?
Because missionaries, then they were coming to tell you about their God. Missionaries are inspired by their feelings. Nini, our God is so awesome. Everyone should know about this God. When they come here, we're like, us guys are good, bro. We have God. We are it. I mean, your God's cool too, but bye, bro. So the missionary is like, But you're right. When the missionary goes back, they report on these things. So when the capitalist does come in, exactly what you're saying, Mr. Rosso, the capitalist is like,
bruh, where'd you get that?
what do you mean? You have all these things.
This place has all those raw materials.
Wazi. And you're right. The first they tried. Then it's like, these guys don't want. Then they call the military. Right? So by any means necessary. Keep going.
And I think they called for backup, but also they realized, because when I look at some of the things they used to replace, you've talked about owning people's time, which was hella important. You also owned all the labor, and then you were working to own the land.
All the means of production. Basically.
Everything that is needed.
Capital, labor, transportation.
And they would move around, and for them, it felt almost like, because I imagine we didn't have very good comms back there, right? We weren't at it talking and being like, bro, have these guys come to try and ask you about the land? So, because I'm trying to think of how they were able to move through Africa so fast and take so much, because when you look at the story, these guys were just dividing. This one has what? This one has what? Okay, take this part. This part is nini. And
that's the scramble for Africa.
That's the scramble now they're calling. So I always thought of this as a scramble for like, I want to be the boss. Kumbe, it's a scramble for where's the resource, right? So I'm coming to find all these raw materials that I'll use to build myself.
And the scientists, other guys who are self-motivated adventurers, Akina John Spoike, guys were just like, okay, I'm going to find out what's over there. That's also in human nature. So these guys have come, they've done expeditions. They're like, bro, there's this river. Imagine the guys who did an expedition to the Congo. They just went back and they're like, bro, we found Eden.
Yeah.
Okay? So they had information. They knew where things were. And that's why it was so quick. So the state funded a lot of expeditions because the state was trying to understand. You're a scientist. You just want to go and find flora and fauna. We're funding you. But us guys, what we really know is when you come and give us this report, it's going to tell us the value of that spot, where you're going.
That's the reason why, if you look at the scramble for Africa, why is it that the two biggest capitalists at the time are the biggest colonizers? Britain and France. Those were the two biggest. In fact, at that point in time, by the time they were getting into Africa, now that's when Germany and all these other states were now getting into this idea of capitalism. That's why they have small two pieces of Africa. But the guys who had the biggest pieces were the guys who are literally the founders of capitalism. Basically, that's why you when you look at it, what was wrong with these guys? Why were they so power hungry? It wasn't power. It was profit.
When they've come to Kenya, so let's use Kenya as an example to make this thing land.
There's no Kenya.
First, there's no Kenya.
There was no Kenya.
Buddha manze, shikilia uzito Buddha. Hapo umesema. There's no Kenya. So they've come into this spot, they're like, aight. So what's going to happen is step one. The first thing we're going to build is a railway. Extraction.
Yes, to extract. Exactly.
That's literally the first project. Like, literally, we came here for resources. We need to transport these resources to the ship.
Then bring some of the guys we've colonized in India.
Correct.
Our other colony.
To come and work here.
Hey.
Okay? But then this also has to be a long-term thing. What have we seen in England? Class works. So now we have white people, we have Indian workers, and we have you Africans. Now what we need to do is to help you acquire our taste and our vibes. So we are going to use any means necessary. We are going to acquire our taste and vibes, we have to eliminate you. We have to eliminate your name, your spiritual beliefs, the way you see the world. That's the work of the missionary. Inge yo kazi. Missionaries change people's hearts, make them more like us. What we need them to do is to acquire the values. Then, with these people who are not motivated by our shillings, this British shilling that you've brought over here to trade, they don't care about that. You're not their normal trade partner. This guy, we have to impose some rules. So we're going to call things like hat tax. So you have to work because you have to pay me a hat tax. You have 10 hats in your homestead, no problem. Each hat has a tax. And it's only paid in the shillings that I give. The only way to get these shillings that I give is for you to work for me in the land that was yours but is now mine, because I've come with another 100 guys called settlers, Akina Delamere's great-grandfather because the Delameres and them, these guys are the ones who are coming to do can wheat grow here? Can barley grow here? Can cotton grow here? Because you still, like, capitalism always requires labor. Who is the guy who's actually going to do the social experiment of 10 years to see whether we can have, like, cotton growing? So see, that's now another guy who's in this class of, yo, I'm going to come here, I'm going to take a bunch of land. They bought land from the crown. Also, it's very important that you guys know. Akina Chomol Domez. Those guys bought land. That's why all this was Zungus who own all this land over here in Laikipia in Kenya. Like, it's our land because they bought it from the crown. The crown gave loans to farmers to come here and try some things. Okay? So now these farmers have come and they're like, who is the labor? You get me, I'm willing to try to see whether wheat can grow. These blackies over here don't want to work for me. First, they're not even motivated by my money.
You sold me this
land. And you sold me this land. And as the crown, you even sold me this dream that if I come here, Nini, I work, the produce that I make, you guys are going to buy it. Now, me, I've already taken the risk. The entrepreneur has taken the risk. So now the crown has to beat into submission you Africans to go and work for this Chomoldome's grandfather, so that you can. So the way to do that is tax. That's one of the ways to do it. So now you have a compulsory tax that can only be paid in shillings. Some of that stuff didn't work in places like Giriama, Akina Mekatililia, like you guys don't know nothing. Us guys trade over here with Arabs on a regular. We don't have to come and work in your farm for us to pay you these coins. We earn the coins. We've been earning our coins, you know. But I think the thing there for me that's super important, like you said, and then I took over, was this guy who came. Colonialism is a result of capitalism. It was not by itself. It wasn't just like, oh my God, we can't wait to dominate all the people of the world.
Nope.
It was like, we need to earn, we need resources, we need labor, we need it to be free. Maximum, very cheap. Maximum price we're going to pay is very cheap, 1 coin.
And it's about creating trading monopolies.
Okay, trading monopolies. Yes. So now, if we then need to own the land, if we need to come and occupy your land, then we'll do it. Yeah. If that makes us colonialists, I guess.
But owning the land also makes you a trading monopoly.
Of course.
That's the whole point. We want to monopolize.
We want to monopolize everything, right?
Exactly.
And then if we want to, you know the thing we were talking about, Mr. Rosso, like now me have my skin. You want to sell me a cotton shirt. Bro, I don't care about your cotton shirt. I wear my skin. So you have to make me acquire your vibes, your habits. So then that was the soft part of it was done by missionaries. And missionaries were very naive. Missionaries kept thinking that they were here to spread the word. No, they were not. They were being supported by the state. The state is supporting this mission. There's nothing like the state is supporting the mission. The state is like, yeah, you go do that. Because 40 years from now, we need this person to voluntarily buy a shirt made of cotton, because how else are we going to keep making guap?
To wear what we call now a Sunday best.
Thank you so much.
Na hapa ndio tuko na the raw materials so that we can be able to export. I mean, and it's happening up until today, but I don't want to get into that just yet.
So I think it's hope.
Like, yeah. You're even reading my mind, because now I'm in that emoji state where my mind is just like, pow. So...
hapo sasa ndio koloni ikaingia Afrika.
Yes, so me I've come to do biashara.
Capitalism.
I found this place, and even I've got another to my entrepreneurs, to my young SMEs, to come with me into my hustle, right? There's an opportunity for dough. You guys are down to farm. There's a place we can buy land. I can give you a deal. I have a lot. It's fertile. You can do this. I've already figured out a route to market.
Tunajenga really kwanza.
In fact, if you check this and this is happening, you roll.
So they're not coming to trade. They're coming to say, this is I have a spot that I just acquired.
I have a spot. Yeah.
I have a spot I just acquired.
It's called the British East Africa Protectorate.
Yes. How I acquired it is not important. Yes.
We're in the 19-somethings. In some places we're facing some uprising, but we're managing.
To manage.
Winning rate is 75 to 80% over here. Where we are colonizing, we're really colonizing. There's some guys we've chappered, there's some guys who have been arrested, and even some locals are working with us. Why this? Because then I'm like, okay, this guy came in and he's doing biashara then now the locals have realized, for whatever reason, that the power is going, our land is going, our people have been beboed. We are here being made slaves in our own land. So a bunch of our people decide to uprise. And I'm going to fight this system. I don't want any of that. We need to get this ownership back. And at this point, the colonizer leaves, whoever the colonizer was, the security, right? So, nyi tumewaachia. But from your definition, Modoni, the Chomlis don't leave, right?
No.
The farm continues. The farming continues, the biashara continues. So essentially, we still have economy in this state. Despite the fact that we are not the police officer, we've given that up, but we're the business owner. We're the guy who pays for the place to function. So the thing we're looking for as a capitalist leaving a place is a business manager, a CEO, senior. It's essentially because I've always been curious about
continuity.
How we moved from colonization to colonization. But essentially we moved from that.
It wasn't colonization from one capitalist.
Yes, colonization was like
yes.
Intermission. In the intermission of this capital transfer,
yes.
In fact, it is capitalism.
There was a need for some kind of a beef. There was some beef in there and some guys began.
Think of colonization as that was the means through which I established a monopoly. Think about it that way. So meaning, I'm a capitalist. How I establish monopoly is through colonization. Because even before they came to Africa, this was the format.
Yeah.
This is how you create a trading monopoly. Own the space. Right? So
and
that
they tested the format.
yeah. So they already yes.
Labor, land,
Exactly. Exactly.
the value of
Yes.
labor, the value
However
of
this
the
thing
land,
works,
everything.
I own this thing. So that's how. So if you think about it from the sense of, if you remove the word colonizer, right, and say capitalist, right, and how did the capitalist at that time function? He functioned through colonizing. So the thing is that when you look at the shift, is that the thing he's doing is capitalism. It's just that the means he did it was through colonization.
Absolutely.
But then now he just decided, I'll just remove the force. But I still maintain, but I maintain the thing that we're doing anyway, which
Absolutely.
is we're trying to
I
extract.
take away this cost of managing a
Yeah.
colony because it's also an expense.
It's a whole expense.
In fact,
Nini.
Kenya, for example, is a very expensive colony to
Very.
manage.
Very.
You see?
Yeah.
So we have to take away the cost because capitalism is always, beloved, Wajuaji, capitalism is only and ever concerned with profit by all means necessary.
Exactly.
That's literally the purpose of capitalism. It has no other purpose.
Yep.
Exactly.
I think the other thing it did successfully through colonization was also alienation, because at this point, from the cottage industry, I knew who my market was, essentially, whether it's my neighbor or Nini Kioko who comes from Ukambani to pick and goes back. I know who I'm dealing with when I say market. Now, me, I'm just a laborer on a farm.
Yes.
I don't know who buys. I don't know what they buy at. I don't know how they buy. I don't know where they are. I have no connection between what the work I'm doing today and who is going to consume it and how I benefit from this thing. So that alienation, I think, is also part of that creating private markets. Because in the other one, I'm very involved in the market. Me, if I don't grow potatoes, if you're trading potatoes, I'm not in that market. Me, I'm in a different place where guys are searching. There's demand for this thing. Now I don't know where the demand is coming from. So this guy, the capitalist, has created a demand, has also come to own, and now owns the market and the production.
Absolutely. And your labor is not yours. The product is not yours. The benefit of the product is not yours. Obviously, you're very alienated.
You're not involved in any form of the production.
You have no decisions.
Yeah, you're just supposed to supply. In fact, what's interesting is that even during the time when they were doing this in their own country, is they literally had what they were calling a maximum wage. Not a minimum wage. Can you imagine? It's like saying, forget about that you can't pay a person less than. It was you can't pay a person more than.
That's wild.
So now it was exercise for unrest. And you know what's so amazing is, I forgot to mention this, that one of the other things that the capitalists did as well in England specifically is that they basically also began to realize that not only were they interested in owning the production, but they were also interested in owning knowledge. So meaning that they then began to be owners of media. So all the media that was owned
continues to be owned
was owned by the capitalists, meaning that they, for them, were like, how are we going to make sure that guys think that free trade is best?
How do you sell this idea?
Yeah, how do you sell this idea? How do you sell this idea to guys to tell them that this is the best thing ever? You know, being a capitalist is the most amazing thing ever. Own the media.
Absolutely. I think it's also I really don't want to gloss over this point, because to me, this is why I kept telling you guys, this is the first topic of all of them. So now, me as capitalist X in this space, now let us use our colonizer, kwa mfano. British mkoloni ameingia, the British East Africa Protectorate, okay? In this protectorate, the part that was most conducive for the agriculture that they understood and that was most strategically placed to easy transport, i.e. the boats and the ship, was Kenya, right? So, for example, Tanzania, they never occupied. So they had a beef with Germany, then eventually Germany gave the Tanzania over to the British. The British didn't actually...
Gifted,
exactly, Kilimanjaro. Yeah, so they traded.
The Germans.
The Germans, okay.
As the owners of the protectorate, Kilimanjaro, which fell within the borders of what is now Kenya, was gifted as a peace offering to Tanganyika.
Ndio story ishe.
Hiyo ni beef ya JP na Wajohi. We'll discuss
exactly.
that later.
Exactly. So now we're in this we're in this space, and we now in Kenya we occupied. So Kenya, there was physical dispossession of the land. Yes. And I'm not trying to say that there wasn't in also Uganda there was physical dispossession of the land, but definitely sasa nyinyi amna land yenu. But, and this is why it's very important to me, why I also think it's important as UJUAJI, we have to unpack religions that were imported into Africa. It was important. The only way the capitalist project could work was to have a long view. So the long view is, one day, these guys are going to revolt. For one thing, they've been revolting since we got here. So one day they're going to like super revolt. But it's not even so much the revolt that is going to make things change. It's that we're going to reach a point where we're like, how can we do this more efficiently? Truly, it was not efficient to run a colony. It is way easier if the colonized can colonize themselves for you. So you have to make them like you. So you have to give them an education. Like, first you have to disrupt them. You have to just disrupt them fully. And this is why I say capitalism is also very evil, because it needed. So we'd already built this narrative of blacks are less than, because it supports or allows us to not have a lot of guilt when we're doing this thing called slave trade. Now, when there was too much guilt in the world, it's like, shit. So we're not going to change the theory that blacks ain't shit. We're just going to now utilize that theory that you black people are you are low grade, you are not deserving. That's a philosophy that we are going to use. But now when we come to your country, we can't necessarily use that philosophy. We have to go around that philosophy. So we're going to establish different things like a class system. So we're going to divide this society into multiple levels. Then we're going to work with the missionaries. The missionaries, your job is to convince them to take on our God and to take on our education, because they need to read the Bible. We're not trying to get them educated so that they can do great things in the world. It's also because we need a working labor force. There are too few white guys working in the colonial British foreign service here in Kenya. You are too few as administrators. You know, it's due to go to northern Kenya, it's due to do expeditions. These things are too expensive for the crown. So we need the Africans to think like us. So they need to read. So an incentive to read is what? Why are you reading? So we are going to give you this thing called our God. Our God is so dope. Your God is nothing. Even your name, terrible. Change your name. You need our name. Our ancestors are what you're going to be called for. Our God is who you're going to worship by. Our clothes are what you're going to wear. We're going to show you how to become a dignified person. In France, I'm trying to remember the name of it. It was assimilation. How to become a French African man. How to speak the language. How to have our taste. How to have our desire. You can assimilate. When you do that, when you sit with us. Yes, sir. If you behave well. Yeah, if you behave well, if you take our language, if you take our education, if your kids go to school, you can become one of us. When you join the ranks of the civil service, we're going to pay you higher than these other Africans who have refused to change their names. So you create a ranking system for Africans, and you've dispossessed them of their land. So I have no land, so I don't have food. I have no God, I have no name. So it was very difficult for a lot of Africans. But it is I think it's so critical, I can't say this enough, when you're thinking about colonization, to understand that this was, as you said, it was a means for the capitalist. And the capitalist alikuwa naona mbele. Alikuwa hata ameona kuna siku hii colonization in its current format itaisha. Except in South Africa, they didn't ever think they were going to leave South Africa. They were sure they were the owners forever and ever. And so the point was, how do we leave and make sure that our guys are now in place? Our guys being the Africans who now think like us, who now behave like us, who are now motivated by the same things we are motivated by. So us guys are motivated by greed. Make the most with the least at all cost, all times. That is the motto. So you need some Africans with those same things. Because I've always wondered, we've talked about this before in UJUAJI. In 63, sele tuliambiwa uhuru imekuja. Mbona hatuku revert to default settings?
And I think,
why didn't we just revert to default settings? It had only been 40 years since they moved in 1920 and they left in 63. Yeah. 43 years. It was not even, it was one generation.
I think it's, when you think about system ya majambazi, in the sense that if fundamentally the colonialist was really a capitalist and was really about greed, then you begin to now see that obviously in order for him to continue to exploit, one is he has to find another guy who's just as greedy as he is, right? And who believes what he believes. And
that's inherent in human nature.
Inherent. Yeah. Well, I don't know if it's inherent because
inherent in human nature
because one of the things that you realize is that if you look at 1963 and you find that the chief, the guy who ended up becoming Baba Jaden, who ended up becoming the first president of this country, and you look at that and you recognize that the first thing that he did was to do exactly what the colonialists did, which was to basically take land. And it was for him to be able to monopolize the same way. It's the same format. It's the same format. Same. I need to be able to monopolize the
so
production.
Not only had he read from the playbook, he was agreed with the playbook.
Yes. And I think the thing the playbook says is when you think greed, when you think monopoly, when you think maximum profit, you're not looking for mass. You're not looking for mass approval. The fewer, the better, right? Yes. The fewer people who can agree with me for me to split this pie with, the better.
Yes.
So these guys are not even looking for mass approval. If this country has 2 million people at this point, find me the 1,000 or 2,000
maximum
who can think like us, who we can influence and train quickly to manage the rest, because then we're only splitting with those guys. One of the things, I was mentioning this to you, Modani, when we were doing the pre, is I read that the chiefs who, in this now transition phase, were in charge of the tax collection for the huts, it was in their jurisdiction who they declared the tax for and who they didn't.
Oh, the ones who are collecting tax on behalf of
the capitalist, right? So the capitalist has left Eric Thimba in charge. If Eric Thimba is in charge of this entire area, and the area is determined by me as the capitalist, right? So you, Thimba, you're in charge of Nairobi. Now you in Nairobi, you go collect tax. See, everyone's supposed to pay tax to me. Bro, go and force. And even for yourself, remember, anyone who doesn't have the chums to pay tax, take some cattle, take their land, take some wives. Those are yours, bro. Those ones don't share with us. Don't send to me to England a couple of cows. Those are yours, bro.
That's all you.
And rich, you. It's also important you continue to benefit from association, from your seat at the table with me, the capitalist. So I'm giving you a direct benefit where you continue to enjoy as long as you enjoy with me. Collect from these guys, me and you gawana. All right? finding that then doesn't seem very difficult because you don't need to convince the entire population to ride with your movement. Convince a few guys to continue this journey that you've begun. And based on what they did when the first guy, capitalist, called for backup, if you have drama, you call me. I got you. I will help you to provide. And so that, the idea of an elite few, which I think is what now you're saying, creating a class system. Because when you read about the transition of power and that, it's that we have remained with an elite few who are essentially the capitalists, who have continued to now own the land, the labor, the people, on behalf of the other capitalist, or as the new capitalist. I don't know now what that is. Maybe I don't know if it's a JV or I don't know how they're working, but it seems like there's now another elite few who are managing the exact same resources that were taken away. The concept of the crown giving us a loan to buy back our land from a bunch of guys, all that is a business transaction. Those are business deals. Those are not, I taken your country, let me give it back. This is an economies of, I've made a profit. I bought this land at this much. Let me give you a loan to buy it back from me. You'll pay me interest. And so we've essentially, just from the one part where the people stopped owning the value or the real source of wealth, which was their land and their resources, we've never been able to go back to re-owning. The route to re-owning that land and those resources is what was taken away.
Absolutely. And we didn't go back to default settings. Yani, kila kitu mesema, yes. And then we didn't go back to default settings because now this mnyapara, this like now new colonialist who looks and seems like me has been incentivized because, like you just said, when you're enforcing whatever you do extra, that's all you. So they've also learned that, this thing called power means I can do a bunch of things. This idea of how our state was designed as a centralized unit, it's very in keeping with the idea of centralized production, right? So everything is extracted and given to the state, and then the state is meant to redistribute. Right? That's what central government has been. This has been the reason why we're like for so many years like, can we go back to devolution? Because everything belongs to in reality, everything belongs to the people and the people should cede the surplus to the supra-state. We already covered this in governance. But in the capitalist, colonialist world, everything belongs to the state and then the state redistributes marupurupu to people. So again, it's always the capitalist who is deciding, so you guys can do development. I'm giving you money to do this development. Or you guys want to have more camel. No, you can only have this money to build roads. Because we have said what is development. Because for us as the capitalist, we need roads so that now we can come and take whatever it is that we want from you. So it is important that there is infrastructure. So the capitalist thinking of exploitation was built into the formation of the nation.
1,000%. In fact, I love that you said that because, I've been thinking about this a lot in terms of, when we talk about our leaders. And by its very definition, I struggle with that because when I think about how the kind of handover of and by say handover meaning that the exit of the capitalist colonialist to now
capitalist neo-colonialist,
the capitalist now the African capitalist, right?
Capitalist.
And the thing is that if the fundamental basis around this is really around, you need to find the greediest guy. It's not about greed may be inherent in humanity, but you need to find the greediest one.
The guy who's truly motivated.
Truly motivated by greed. And the thing is that if you look at what existed before the colonialists came, is that our societies and our communities were not led by the greediest guy.
Not at all.
Do you get what I'm saying? And the thing is that it's not to say that they were perfect. I'm just saying if we take greed, but then now it's that when you look at specifically Baba Jaden and how he was very specific in being able to literally silence the voice of true leaders. Meaning that there were people who were genuinely looking out for the people. What he did was that he killed leaders and maintained the greediest. And so sometimes I wonder, when we look at our society and we wonder, why is it that the people who end up entering into political leadership, why are they so greedy? Do you get what I'm saying? It's because that's literally how the state was formulated. That's the playlist. That's the playbook in terms of you need to find if there's someone who doesn't want to dip their hand in the cookie jar, kill that guy.
That guy is not meant to.
That's how it was. I mean, think about it. Kill that guy.
Yeah.
Get rid of him.
Yeah.
And so obviously, what you begin to recognize is that there's this whole thing of the perpetuation of this cycle of what we call leaders, but in my opinion, I call them bandits. Because we still haven't experienced true leaders. Because anytime a leader comes in, they are nipped in the bud, right? It's eliminate this thing. Make sure this guy comes out of here, because the way this thing works, right, is that fundamentally it's about capital.
Absolutely.
That's what it's about. And so the only person that needs to be here is the greediest guy, not the leader.
Yeah, the guy who's down to the exploitation.
That's why I'm like, I really struggle with this phrase of like, our leaders, pray for our leaders. I'm just like, I'm like, wait a second. I actually do want to pray for the leaders. But at the same time, I'm just like, is this person a leader or is this person a bandit? Because the way when I look at this person, I'm like, based on the consistent behavior that you continue to demonstrate, and not only that, you are a child of the system. You're a child of this thing that has continued to be perpetuated. And then on top of that is that if that's the case, then when we look at it, we recognize that if we fundamentally understand that capitalism is the basis of it, then it's important for us to see it not just at a place of leadership and a place of the bigger industry, but also looking at it in terms of when you understand that the basis of capitalism is labor. Without labor, and by labor meaning that if you look at it if you look at the playbook in terms of we dispossess your land so that you can fully depend on our wages to survive, right? And the thing is that isn't that the society we live in?
Absolutely.
Do you get what I'm saying? Like when you think about it, like isn't this literally not just here in Africa? Think about it everywhere in terms of this whole this capitalism has continued to perpetuate itself in the sense that literally, if you are not waged, you die.
Thank you for tuning in to UJUAJI. The views expressed on this podcast are solely those of the individuals and do not represent any group or entity. Special thanks to our production team and to Folklore for their technical support. UJUAJI is proudly supported by OneBeat.